DJ Dewey Rock on the track.
Welcome to Emerge Podcast 360. I'm your host, Maserati. We want to thank you for tuning in. No matter where you are in this metaverse world, we're going to continue to bring you the best quality content and formula that we know how. We want to thank you for all the likes, subscriptions, and shares on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube thus far. This show is being brought to you by 720 Gamers Group, Stepping Stones LLC of Jonesboro, Louisiana, and Burchell Family Insurance Agency. Once again, we want to thank you for tuning in. We have a great show for you today. It's Beyond the Game with Mr. Gary Eve, Grambling State sports legend, Hall of Fame, and former Atlanta Braves. I want to once again welcome Mr. Gary Eve to the show. He's a Bastrop native. He's now living in Franklin, Louisiana, married to Miss Kathy Eve, where he has 4 children. He's a 1981 Bastrop High graduate, where he's a Scrap City standout. He went on to Grambling State University, where he graduated in 1985, where he won 3 SWAC baseball championships in 83, 84, and 85. He went on to be drafted by the Richmond Braves in 1988, where he made his major league debut with the Braves. He's a Grambling State legend, Hall of Fame inductee in 2016. He has been working 25 years for Orion Engineering Carbons, where he's a processing technician. He is currently the assistant and associate pastor at Mount Zion Ministries in Franklin, Louisiana. He's the associate and assistant at the church. He's the assistant baseball coach for several years at Franklin High School, and he's also a member of the 100 Black Men of St. Mary Parish of Distinguished Gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, Grambling Hall of Famer and former Atlanta Brave, Mr. Gary Eve. How you doing today, Mr. Eve?
I'm doing fine, Mr. Odom. I'm doing fine. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be on your show, on the podcast this evening. And thank you for the kind words of introduction into the segue of this broadcast. I'm just elated to be able to speak to the people of Bastrop and be able to tell my story growing up there. So hopefully that this segment be able to inspire and enlighten someone tonight as to the rich heritage of Bastrop and all that it has to offer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Eve, we greatly appreciate you taking out the time to come and shed some light and to share your experience in baseball, which we know a lot of black youth really don't take interest in today. Kind of tell us how it was coming up for you in the big old city of Bastrop, Louisiana.
Well, first and foremost, I would just say I'm honored and thank God that I grew up in a time and in a family that I did on a little corner there in Bastrop, Louisiana of 1601 King and Smith, where my family, Mr. Johnny and Mr.Eave, did a tremendous job in raising us, instilling great values in us. And when I say us, I mean my siblings, Betty Eve, Johnny Eve Jr., Tabitha Eve, and Shirley Eve. We really grew up in a home that was full of love, full of encouragement, full of inspiration. So I was very privileged to be a part of that family. And as I've grown older, it just resonates even deeper within me to be able to know all the foundation that was placed under me as a young boy there in that home and on that corner, just to have so much given to me and so much instilled in me by my mother and my father. And also the encouragement that my siblings gave me along the way. They was always encouraging. They was always inspiring and uplifting as I looked towards my athletic endeavors, and also as I grew into a man and just became the person that I am. But growing up in basketball, not only did my family have a great part in who I became as a person, but there were so many people in and around my neighborhood that did the same. But if I had to start somewhere, I would start almost with my life journey in sports and athletic as a movie, because as a little boy, I can vividly remember standing outside my home and seeing a young man walk down the street by the name of Anthony Robinson, and he had on this gray with trimmed in red uniform, baseball uniform. And man, I went running in the house and telling my dad that I want one of those. I want one of those. Could he buy me one of those? And so my dad came outside and he saw what I was talking about. He was like, "Well, I can't buy you that, son. You have to earn that." And I'm like, "What I have to do to earn it?" And then he went to telling me that I have to learn how to play baseball. And from that day, all I did was want that red uniform, that gray and red uniform. It was actually a Lonnie and Jake's uniform that he was wearing. And I contributed my profound beginnings to that day with Anthony Robinson. Most people in basketball know him by the name of Shine. And I had a chance to share that with him on one of my last visits home. All these years, I never really told him. And then I saw him one day while I was home, and I sat down with him and just told him it's all because of him that I had that yearning to become a baseball player and wanted the uniform that he had on, and he was really moved by that. So in that day, in that time, my dad started working with me, learning how to catch, learning how to throw. I must have been about 5 or 6 years old at the time. And after when my dad couldn't, had a young man in my backyard, was a tremendous baseball player, tremendous athlete, period, in regards to baseball and basketball. His name was Carlos Dorsey. Most people know him by the name of Tiger. This young man right here, he put countless hours and countless of time in with me learning how to throw, learning how to catch, learning how to hit. He talking the game. He was very knowledgeable about the game because his daddy, Mr. Sam Dorsey, was a neighborhood barber. And Mr. Dorsey would always have the radio on the baseball games on Saturdays when I went to get my hair cut. All I can hear him talking about was Johnny St. and Johnny Bench and Manny St. and the Big Stick Willie McCovey and all these people on the broadcast. And so he would sit there and listen and to the broadcast and gain the valuable knowledge that he needed for learning the game. And he would always pass that on to me. And I must apologize to the brother because there were times when Saturday mornings especially, I would go to his house like 6 o'clock in the morning, knocking on that door and trying to get him up to come play ball. And he didn't want to get out of bed, but his mother, Miss Lena May, would whip him and make him get up because she said she told him that he never should have started with me if he wasn't going to finish. So kudos to him for that, man. And sorry about the few butt whippings my brother took for me, but I just had such a hunger to learn the game. All I wanted to do was just play ball and play baseball. I wanted to learn and more. And the more I learned, the more I could appreciate it. But it was just the growing up with my parents, Carlos Dorsey being able to instill a few things in me for as baseball is concerned. But there were so many people in the neighborhood at the time that I grew up, just basically held you accountable for being a young boy, for being a child. In the time I grew up, I thought it was a very special time. As I look back now, realizing and understanding being on King Street, growing up across the street from the Wilsons and the Smiths and all of these people in the neighborhood who just shaped me over the course of my life and the course of my childhood. I can look down the road now and just see, how my aunts and my uncles and all of these people were just very, very, very valuable to who I was as a young boy. I mean, across the street from me, you had Lewis and Sammy Davis, who was two excellent athletes, and behind me, Lewis Day was an excellent athlete growing up, and it was just a very very privileged thing. And then down my street, I had young people growing up with me playing ball all the time in my neighborhood, like Willie Doty and Randy Jones, Alvin Etman. Up the street from where I lived, going up Smith Street, up on God Street, you had Michael Smith, who was an excellent football player, went on to play at Grambling, and he ended up playing ball at for the Atlanta Falcons, and his brother Richard Smith and Patrick Crowder and all those people there. Man, we had the opportunity just to be able to learn the game from some of the best, even guys just around and about Mr. John Thomas, who I owe a tremendous deal of my baseball knowledge for his pitching to, because Mr. John Thomas was a three-time draftee himself, but out of Bastrop. But unfortunately, Mr. John never chose to go play, and he and Benny Hall, Mr. I.L. Davis, people like that, when I was a young boy playing, just took me all over the place. But before they got a chance to take me all over the place, so everything that I became in Dawson Park. I became the baseball player because of all the talent that was there, all the young men that played there. I mean, when I think about growing up and playing ball in Dawson Park, man, I think about one of the guys who never made it, but probably was one of the greatest baseball players that I laid eyes on, was a brother, Jesse Duvall. I mean, this brother here was just a pure talent, man, and just unfortunately, he didn't get the break. And when I think about guys like Jimmy Worley or Nick Carter or Barry Robinson, when I think about guys like that, man, who just didn't get the break that I got. I mean, and all of these guys, I tried to take them on the journey with me, in my mind and in my spirit. I never forgot about these brothers, because they did make it. I wanted to make sure that, every time I put on the uniform, every time I took the mound, I thought about my humble beginnings out there in Dawson Park. I mean, even to the name of gathering the name of Sharphead as a kid growing up, because of Ricky Anderson, who was an umpire there, got pissed off at me one day because I was whining and complaining, and he told me shut my Sharphead mouth up. So from that day forward, everybody knew me as Sharphead in the Dawson Park, and I grew up with that name. But there were so many people like Coach Hicks and James Gray, junior high. You're talking about people like Coach White and Coach Nance, Coach Willie Fitch, Mr. Coach Piggies, and Mr. Billy Raven, God bless his soul, who had just laid to rest. All of these men helped shape who I was as a young boy growing up. I mean, I can't say enough to Don Doty, who really instilled that spirit in me to competitiveness. He set me down and told me, man, it's one thing to have the talent and ability, but if you don't know how to compete, then that's another thing. And Don Doty left Bastrop, went to Mississippi Valley. He played football, became an All-American there at Mississippi Valley, went on to play for the Oakland Raiders. So growing up in Bastrop, man, there was a rich history of all the people there to be able to shape you and form you and encourage you. And you had great witnesses to see what hard work would do, especially when you go to talking about guys that left there and was very they were very excellent in their athletic abilities. Even my brother Otis, he did a wonderful job going to Jackson State, doing what he had to do. But it was all about just me doing whatever I had to do, watching and observing how these people went about their business on a daily basis, being able to put into place all the things that I needed to do, and just to be able to go on, not only from Dawson Park, but even to high school. But what a lot of people really don't know, I only played 2 years of high school ball there in Bastrop, because the freshman year, where it was back then, that junior high school was 8th and 9th grade over where we were. And so in the 9th grade, I guess I was just naive and ignorant. I've always thought about baseball just being played in the summer, and not knowing that high school baseball played in the fall. So the first year, in my 9th grade year, I just had no clue. And then when I got to high school, the second year, I was waiting for something to come out. and apparently I must have missed it because in the fall, once again, I did not go out for practice. I didn't go out for the team. But then my junior year, I knew about the practice and everything, and lo and behold, the night before tryouts, my brother had put his bike in the room. I woke up out of the bed, hit the kickstand, broke my big toe. But I did not let that deter me. I went out there on the field that day with one shoe on my feet and about 10 or 12 pair of socks to be able to try out for the team. And thank God I was able to perform well enough on one foot to where the coach told me if I could play like that, which was Terry Murray. He was the coach at the time. He told me if I could play like that on one foot, then I must be a pretty good baseball player. And I was lucky and had the privilege to play with my cousin Jerry Harris on the team my junior year. He and I was the only two blacks on the team, and that was unique for me because that was the first time in my life that I ever played ball with white guys. And it was quite the experience, quite the learning curve for me to be able to understand them, understand their way of playing ball. Because in our culture in Dawson Park, I mean, we had great athletes. We talked and we talked smack, and that was just the way of playing. But over there at the high school, I had to learn to play a different way. But I was able to adapt, and I thank my cousin Jerry Harris for being there a couple of years and kind of showing me the way to go. And it was a great experience. And in my senior year, there were three blacks on the team: myself, Tommy Harris, and Ricky Johnson. And so we made a mark, left our footprints there. But baseball was good to me, and it was just a lot of shaping and molding by a whole lot of people in a wonderful neighborhood. For the Floyds, the Bowies, the Smiths, the Days, the Wilsons. I mean, all of these people throughout the neighborhood who really did a great job. And I had a man across the street from me named Mr. Smith, Mr. J.C. Smith, who was an advocate baseball learner and player. But and he always encouraged me, told me things about the game, little nuances as well about the game. But a lot of my knowledge and athleticism came from my dad, who played baseball, and also from my mom, who was a very talented basketball player growing up. But I'm just so thankful to the guys like Frederick Wilson and Don Wilson and all of these guys who grew up in the neighborhood with me, who encouraged me, toughened me up as a kid to get myself ready for my life journey.
Right. Well, Mr. Grieve, we're going to take an intermission. When we come back, I want you to speak about, we spoke about earlier about an inspiring man that was on the back of a garbage truck. When we come back from this intermission, I want you to talk about Mr. LowDown and how he inspired you to keep pushing forward. We'll be right back with GSU Hall of Famer, Mr. Gary Eve. Welcome back. We're still here with GSU Hall of Fame and former Atlanta Braves pitcher, Mr. Gary Eve. Mr. Eve, when we left for intermission, you were talking about all the guys that inspired you coming up in basketball that you thought maybe had more talent than you, just didn't get the opportunity. But when we spoke earlier, you talked about a young man that inspired you every day, that worked on the back of a garbage truck, that said this slogan every day when you was a young man, that kind of inspired you to get up and keep pushing every day. Kind of share that with the people about that.
Oh, yes, sir, brother. I can remember vividly as a young boy growing up there in a garbage truck coming down the road, and you just hear somebody hollering, get up, go to school, get up, it's time to wake up, it's time to wake up. And the guy was named LowDown, man, and I really don't know his real name, but the people in Bastrop may know who he is. But man, this guy right here, it's when I think about him a lot of times over my course of my life, he don't know how much that inspired me because he always would tell us to get up, go to school, read the books, get your education. Don't end up on the back of a garbage truck like me. And then everybody will holler, "Oh, shut up, Lowdown." He's like, "Hey, my name is Lowdown. I got to go now. Don't jank me." And it just resonated in my mind as a young boy that, even this man, had a footprint in my heart and in my mind that's been embedded forever. And over the course of my life through athleticism, that pushed me to be so much more than I probably ever would have could been had he not been coming down that street and saying those words. He may not have known what it meant, but man, I just wanted to take this time out to thank him. If his family is listening, I don't know who he is, but please let him know that Gary Eve said he appreciated from the bottom of his heart that he took time to make a difference in at least one person's life.
Right, right. That's what makes it so special, Mr. Eve, when you can look back on the have-nots and show that the have-nots are the ones that inspired you the most. And I think those little sweet nothings like that are the true ingredients to success. Let's speak on basketball standout and going on to play at Grambling, where not only were Otis Brown winning SWAC championships at Jackson State in football, you were over there at Grambling in baseball doing your thing. Talk to us, Mr. Eve, how the experience was, brother.
Well, it was a wonderful experience. When I left basketball and went to Grambling, like I said, man, I took a lot of basketball with me. I took a lot of people with me to Grambling. I mean, guys that I can think of. They all wasn't baseball players. I mean, some of them was track runners. Some of them was football players, guys like Sam Jones and Arthur Jones, like Dal Raven, man, and Reverend Terry Newsom, and the Newsom brothers, man, who were just excellent baseball players. Bobby Manyweather, and my brother Tracy Williams and Jerry Williams and Zodi Wheeler. Reverend Tommy White and his brother Jimmy White. And I took people like that with me along the ride. I mean, just realizing how good these people were. And, a lot of them didn't get the opportunity that was afforded me. And I was afforded the opportunity to go to Grambling on a scholarship when the coach never even saw me play one day, just because Mr. Benny Hall, talked to the coach, told him I was a young man over in Bastrop who can pitch and play ball. And the coach valued his words so much that he called me and offered me a scholarship. But before Grambling had offered a scholarship, I was offered a scholarship to Alcorn University initially. And when Grambling came a calling, man, I just knew that was the place to go because I had ties there to Grambling, going to visit football games when our brother from Bastrop, Michael Smith, was playing there, and I went along to a couple of games with his brother Richard Smith and their family to see brother Michael Smith play. And then not only that, when I was a young boy growing up in church at Second Baptist there at Bastrop on Smith Street, I was chosen to go to a couple of Baptist Houston camps, which were held at Grambling. So I knew that I had already had ties with Grambling. I was familiar with Grambling, and then just getting encouraging words, man, from people like Ms. Inez Grant, even getting encouraging word from Mr. Strickland, who used to sell snow cones out in the Dawson Park, from Mr. Jones, who was the park director out there. All of these people, they encouraged me and told me Grambling was a good place to go, that I'll do well there. So it made a tremendous difference. Then having my homeboys being there, like Kenny Simpson was there, John Dewey was already there. Had guys like Denson Jones was already going to Grambling. So it made it very, very possible for me to go there and just be able to be comfortable. And once I got there, just being able to know that I was at a place, man, where people valued who I was as an individual, because the motto at Grambling was everybody is somebody. And that really struck me and resonated within my spirit that I'm somebody. Sometimes growing up or sometimes going through life, you really don't think about who you really are as a person. But when they embed that in you and you hear it over and over and over, and it becomes a part of your spirit, then something just bursts forth in you, and you begin to believe it, and that's what I did. And when I got to school, there was a bunch of freshmen that came in with us from all over. And one of the things that stood out to me very vividly, even to this day, were Coach Wilbert Ellis, who was my head baseball coach. He got all the freshmen together, and that was the first time they had a big group of freshmen come in like that in a while. That was supposed to be pretty talented. But he let us know right away that everything we did in high school, being all district and all states and all American high school players, didn't mean nothing if we couldn't come to Grambling and duplicate what we did in high school or in Little League, and Pony League, and the Sheriff League. So right then and there, he put it on our minds that if we wanted to be good at this level, if we want to be great at this level, that we really had to work at it. And so going off to Grambling and becoming a part of a baseball program that was already established, a baseball player that had produced many great talents, many major leaguers already, from AJ to the guys like Ralph Garr and Matt Alexander, who went on to play many years in the major leagues. So these men had already set a blueprint of what it takes to get there. And just meeting senior ball players like Thaddeus Ratcliffe, who just told me that I had what it took, and he was going to work with me to make sure that I got the best out of my talent and ability there at Grambling. And not only just being for the athletics, they held you accountable. These guys, they started holding us accountable for our academics as well, because not only did they want you to be a good baseball player, a good athlete, but they wanted you to be a good collegiate student, to make sure that you understood that you was a student athlete first. So to come into that type of culture, to come into that type of atmosphere, to be embraced by those type of men in my freshman year really set the tone for what my life and career would be. And then in my freshman year also at Grambling, man, to meet my greatest cheerleader in life, my wife Kathy. I met her in my second semester at Grambling in my freshman year, and thanks be to God, man, we've been together ever since we've been 19 years old. We've been together, and God has blessed us to stay together all these years, and as we were stated in the opening, to be able to have 4 beautiful children to our marriage. But all that happened at Grambling, and man, I owe a lot to Grambling. Grambling helped shape me continuously and mold me as a man. It instilled in me the possibilities that I never thought was possible, man. Growing up in the Pine Hills of North Louisiana, it gave me an outlook on life to be able to look beyond my wildest dreams and to expose me to so many cultures, so many different type of people from different parts of the states, and people that was abroad from Africa and from Ethiopia, of our native land, and just allowed me to be able to understand how rich my heritage is. And that's the thing that when I think about, man, just even being from Bastrop, and the motto there when I was growing up, as you entered into Bastrop, when you saw where the sign coming into Bastrop from Monroe said the city of pride, and all that Bastrop has incurred over the years, with the mills shutting down and the schools closing and some of the people leaving town. It just really sinks me in my heart and in my spirit that, that pride of Bastrop seems to have migrated elsewhere. It seems as though we've lost some of our luster for who we are. But when I talk about all these wonderful people, man, who made a difference in my life and made a difference in so many other people's lives, I just realized that myself, that the paper mill, it wasn't who I was. That paper mill didn't make me. That paper mill didn't shape me. That paper mill didn't form me into being the person that I am. But the people in the town, they formed me and they shaped me and they prepared me to go beyond Bastrop, beyond the cotton fields of Bastrop, beyond the cornfields of Bastrop, beyond everything that Bastrop had to offer me. The people in my neighborhood, the people in my community, all the people that coached me, all the people that I played ball with. When I think about guys, man, who was always inspiring, like Dale Manyweather and Anthony Harris, and guys like Matthew Dumas, who I played ball with briefly growing up as a kid, and Randy Jones, who always inspired me, and Mr. Matthew Floyd, and my parents and my siblings, and all of these people, so they just pushed me they pushed me into my purpose. They pushed me into my destiny. They helped me to be able to understand who I really was. So I just thank God that I was thrust into a place and position at Grambling that allowed me and afforded me the opportunity, man, to just birth forth the gift and the talent that God had put in me. They taught me how to take your talent to the next level through hard work and through dedication, through commitment and through obedience, and through nutrition of just doing things the right way, and just being around a great group of guys who was inspired and had one purpose and one goal in mind, and that was just to be the best. And in doing that, we was able to just go on and to win 3 SWAC titles, which hadn't been done since 1985 at Grambling. So it makes me realize that I was a part of a very special moment in time, a part of a special group of talented guys, and to have 9 guys to be drafted off of one black baseball team was almost unheard of, but it happened in my era from 1982 to 1985. And, man, we were just talent loaded, but we had a coach who just kept us humble, a coach who talked to us about God, a coach who talked to us about the scriptures and what they meant, a coach who allowed us to understand that who you are, and as your name becomes bigger and greater, that more people would understand who you are, more people will come to know you. So you have to be mindful how you walk and how you talk, how you carry yourself, how you present yourself in all settings. So that was just a tremendous blessing to the professors there at Grambling, who instilled a lot of hope and possibilities, where we can go and what we can do and how we can become different makers. So it was just a tremendous blessing to be a Gramblingite, and I love Grambling University. To thank God for the honor that was bestowed upon me out of all the wonderful, talented people that ever came through Grambling. To be able to have a wonderful coach like Coach Wilbert Ellis, Coach Ben Williams, Coach Wright, who was there when we was there. These men, I mean, they put wisdom in us. They put understanding about life in us, expectations in us, and they taught us so much. And then, just like I was saying, to be able to be honored to be chosen to be in the Grambling Legends Sports Hall of Fame was just the icing on the cake of who I was, who I became as a Gramblingite. And it was just it's so rewarding that when I think about that moment in time when I got that phone call, how initially I didn't even believe I deserved it, but just talking to Coach Williams, he told me that, I had earned the right to be there. I had earned the right to be able to have my picture and my name cemented with Grambling. So it was just a proud moment, man, with being able to go and have my mother and my family, my wife and my kids to be there, and to be able to see me do something special. Because as a kid growing up, my mom always told me to hang out with people that are on their way somewhere. So I never forgot about that. And even to this day, that's what I try to do. I try to put myself around people who are knowledgeable about life and understand their purpose about life, and who are moving forward, who want to make a difference. And truly, Grambling allowed me to do that. And I'm so grateful.
Right. Well, Mr.Eave, you go on, like you say, you do some phenomenal things at Grambling. You're part of history that it hasn't repeated itself since, with 3 SWAC championships in baseball. Let's go to that moment when you finally get the call and you're drafted to the Braves. Kind of take us through what's going through your mind at that time.
Yeah, that moment in time was just tremendous, man. And all I could, when I got the phone call, I just sat there and I just thought about all the guys that I played ball with from Little League, Pony League, Sheriff League. I thought about all the wonderful guys that I had played ball with at Grambling. Thought about all the people that had coached me, all the people that had instilled their wisdom in me. I thought about all the people who had given their time to me, who had just made a difference to get me to that phone call. And man, what a joyous day that was, to just see the exuberation on my mother's face and on my father's face and on my siblings' face and on my wife's face, which was my girlfriend at the time. But just to see that all the hard work, that all the commitment, that all these things that people had poured into me, had taken time out with me, wasn't in vain. I say so often that, man, God just had opened doors for me, because even before getting that phone call, the last game that I pitched in Texas during the regionals, I pitched 12 innings that night against the University of Texas. They were ranked number 1 in the nation. And here, little Grambling was going up against the number 1 team in the nation. I mean, we didn't stand a chance, so they say. But we knew who we were. We knew the talent that we had on our team. And I knew inside of myself what I was capable of doing. And, man, when I towed the mound and started pitching in that game, and that was just the largest crowd I had ever played ball in front of, and to be in a hostile environment, be able to win those people's hearts and minds over. Although we lost the game, but we won so much more for Grambling. I won so much more for myself that night, because the next day when I went to the ballpark, the scout from the Braves came to me, and he asked me about playing at the next level. And he asked me, have I always pitched like that? And I told him yes, because at the time my record was 10-1. And I told him that I had pitched like that all year long. And he said, well, he did some background check, and nobody really had me on their radar. He found that very hard to believe. He didn't really know what had happened or how did I go under the microscope. So I'm saying that to say this, that God, when he's in the plan, when God has a purpose for your life, man, he would open a window and pour you out a blessing. And my blessing came that night that I was able to pitch the way I did in front of that crowd, in front of that man, to be able to go ahead and say, well, Gary, we're going to draft you. The Braves want you. And surely enough, when I got that phone call, it was him on the line. And I was just elated. It was a life changer for me. It was an eye opener for me. But I had something in me that I had the whole time, because most of my time at Grambling, when I was playing ball, I became a father at the age of 19. And man, all I wanted to do was do something to make a difference in my life, that my son DeMontre would be able to look at me like I looked at my father. My father was, to me, everything. I looked at him, I honored him, I respected everything that he did, and I wanted my son to be able to look at me in the same way. And when I got that phone call, I said to myself, finally, my son can look at me and he can uphold me in a light that every son should be able to look at their father in the ultimate way. And it was just a blessing from God that I received that phone call. But I know that's a phone call that many guys at Bastrop and many guys at Grambling could have easily gotten. But just thanks be unto God, he chose me, and to piggyback off all those people. And I'm grateful for everything that everybody in Bastrop and beyond had put inside of me.
Right. And that's a beautiful thing, how you kept God first. I'm just listening to your story, and you kept your faith in that and believed in yourself most of all. Now, playing with the Braves, how was it, and how did your career go? And tell us about some of the different ventures and teams you played for throughout your professional career.
Yes, but before I speak on that, I just want to make this clear that, as a child growing up, I used to play ball on Saturdays and Sundays, traveling all over with Mr. John Thompson and those guys. But on Sundays, my dad would always tell them that if you want him, you'll get him after church. And I didn't quite understand that as a young boy, what my dad was trying to tell him. But my father knew long after I finished playing ball, I would still need God to be in my life. I would still need a solid rock to be able to stand on because of all the trials and tribulations that I would be able to incur as a man in life. So I'm grateful to my father for being able to stand his ground, knowing that his son would need more in life than just baseball. And I'm so thankful for that, I got the revelation later in life in regard of that. Now, going into pro ball, man, that was something special. Whereas that game that I talked about pitching in Texas during those 12 innings almost derailed my career when I first got into professional ball because the Braves flew my dad and I out to Atlanta, and we had a workout, and they wanted to see me throw out there. And man, I was able to throw the ball, but I didn't have the velocity that I needed that day, and they questioned me about that. But I didn't tell anybody. But my arm was hurting me so bad, and it was the aftermath of pitching that game just a few days prior to getting drafted and going to Atlanta. And then when I got drafted, they sent me off to rookie ball. And my very first day in rookie ball, they had us out throwing. My arm felt good. I was throwing the ball, but we didn't have any pitching coach there. We just had our manager there. And he must have let us throw for like 30 minutes straight without stopping. And then finally somebody said, man, we've had enough. And, man, the next day I could not pick my shoulder up. And I couldn't throw a ball. I couldn't lift my arm up. And I thought that was the end of it. But once again, God just smiled down on me. He had the trainers to work with me, give me what I needed. And by the end of that summer, I was able to throw again and pitch a little bit, and went on to throw a no-hitter that summer in the Gulf Coast League, which was that was the highlight of that season. And then going into spring training in '86, I got off to a good start. In the camp, was throwing the ball well, doing everything, and we had our first inter-squad game. I pitched 2 innings in the inter-squad, struck out 4 guys, got two ground outs, and the very next day, I could not pick my arm up again. In the whole spring training, I never was able to throw anymore. So at the end of spring training, Hank Aaron was our minor league director. And they told me that Hank Aaron was looking for me, and I was on the backfield with legendary pitcher Phil Negro, working on fundamental drills of pitching and fielding around the pitcher's mound. So I didn't know that until I got in. And so I just went to my room. I packed up all my clothes because at that time they was releasing ball players. And I went and knocked on Mr. Hank Aaron's door, and we sat down for about 2 hours. Now I'm sitting in the presence of the legendary Hank Aaron, the home run king. And I'm in awe, and I'm hearing what he's telling me, and he's questioning me about my ability to pitch, and he questioned me about who I am as a man, and he's questioned me about the integrity of the game. And then he also started to question me about why it is that I wasn't able to pitch and what the doctor's saying. Well, lo and behold, nobody has taken me to the doctor. No one has did anything other than icing and heating on my arm. And so that kind of angered Mr. Aaron that as a black ball player, I was treated like that. And that's where he took it, that as a black kid, they really didn't care about me. So he made a couple phone calls, and he got on a couple people, and he made sure that the next day I was able to go to the doctor. But he had saw me pitch, and he saw the possibilities of what I had. But he also told me that as a black pitcher, if I wasn't in the major league by the time I was 25, I would never get there. No matter how good of a pitcher I was, just they wouldn't let it happen because there's a window of opportunity, and age means a lot. And at the time, I was 23. So they sent me back to rookie ball to rehab and get my arm together. And lo and behold, God blesses me again to where my arm finally rebounds. It finally comes around. And then, I go on to start pitching like I was capable of pitching. and it was quite the journey. It started off rocky, but I never forget sitting down with Hank Aaron and the fire that he lit in me to be able to make something special happen for myself in the next year and a half. And I did that through the help of God and through the help of all the guys that played ball behind me, and going on to be able to be a good relief pitcher for a couple of years. And then they moved me when I got to AAA into a starting rotation as Hall of Famer John Smoltz was ushered into the big leagues. I took his spot in the rotation. And then Richmond Braves, I pitched very well up there. But I had a lot of help along the way there because a man by the name of Clarence Jones, who was a pitcher instructor, he taught me a lot. Although I had Leo Mazzoni, who handled some of the greatest talent of pitching that you ever wanted to see assembled in the Braves organization, was my pitching coach in Double A. He was my pitching coach in A-ball, Double A, and Triple A. And he did a lot to teach me about pitching. But it was Clarence Jones, the hitting instructor, who really kept telling me, do what you did to get here. Don't let them change you. Don't let them do anything. He said, because your talent, your ability is what got you drafted. Your talent, your ability is what got you to A-ball, through A-ball, to Double A, through Double A, to Triple A, and into Triple A. And your talent, your ability is what helped your team win the Grey Cup in Triple A. Your talent and your ability is what helped you win those 13 games in Triple A against the 3 winning losses. So he's like, when you go to the big leagues, don't forget about who you were. Don't forget about the people that made it possible for you, Leo Mazzoni and Coach Jim Beecham, who really take time out with me. And even the Braves' current coach was my manager in A-ball, and Brian Snicker. I owe a lot to those men who just kept encouraging me and kept pushing me and kept seeing the possibilities in me. Sometime when I didn't even see it in myself, when I hit a rush patch there in '88 about pitching, but they didn't believe in me. They didn't give up on me. They kept believing in me. They made me believe in myself. And when God was able to just open me up into who I was and what I was capable of doing, and then I just took off. But unfortunately, when I got with the Braves, they traded me to the Mariners. When I got in the Mariners organization, I came up with an arm injury in my rotator cuff that I just couldn't shake. I went back down to the minor leagues and played in Calgary, Canada. Still just could not shake that rotator injury that I had. Velocity on my fastball didn't come back. I ended up having surgery, but I just wasn't. My arm was just never the same, and I ended up getting released. And then the Giants picked me up. I started to pitch good there. Did really well. I went back to Double A, went back to Triple A, and once I got into Triple A, they sent me. Got traded back to the Mariners, and then I started having arm issues again. And it was just kind of that season where I just couldn't shake it. And then I ended up from there getting released. And then I had an opportunity to go and travel abroad in my professional career. I ended up having an opportunity to play ball in Venezuela. I played in Taiwan, played down in Mexico, played over in Italy. So the travel abroad was a blessing. God allowed me to experience some things, meet some incredible people near and far. To be able to make sure that my life and the things in my life drove me to the purpose of where I am now, to be able to understand people, different cultures, different environments, different settings. So I'm grateful for the opportunity that God bestowed upon me to be able to be a professional athlete, all the people that I met along the way. One of the very first people that I met in my life in pro ball was Dave Justice, and he and I are still very close friends to this day. But I met a lot of wonderful men and women in organizations, and I'm grateful for the Braves for drafting me. I'm grateful for Grambling baseball team. I'm grateful for Basham High Rams baseball team, for the guys that I played there, and I'm certainly grateful for all the people that allowed me to play in Dawson Park and be able to see the talent and ability that God had given me.
Right. And that's a remarkable journey that you took us on thus far, Mr.Eave, and you overcame a lot, and you succeeded in a lot. But we're going to take an intermission, and we're going to take a step back and look at your biggest test. the passing of your son. For the last 10 minutes or so when we come back, I want you to share with the people how you and your family are dealing with that situation. We'll be right back with former pitcher for the Atlanta Braves and GSU Legend Sports Hall of Famer, Gary Eve. We're back with legendary Scrap City standout and GSU Hall of Famer, former Atlanta Braves pitcher, Mr. Gary Eve. Mr. Eve, you accomplished a lot. You accepted a lot. You praised a lot. A lot of people help influence you and keep you on the right path throughout your journey. Your parents, a lot of guys you grew up with. You done faced a lot of obstacles, and you tested the hands of time. You've made it. But it's one test that you and your family had to recently deal with, and that's the passing of your son. If you don't mind, share with the people, the audience, how you and your family are dealing with that.
Well, brother, we're dealing with it day by day. We're dealing with it the best we can. Even though I'm in ministry and had the opportunity to console and pray for and just try to uplift so many people when they had lost a loved one, lost their son, and lost their daughter. Even my brother, who was on this show not too long ago, Reverend Terry Newsom, I had reached out to him. But there were so many people that I had to go back and apologize to because I had no earthly idea the depth of the pain that comes from losing a child. You know, maybe if my child was in the streets, thugging, acting crazy, being foolish, maybe if my child was sick, maybe if my child was just doing a lot of unnecessary things that he shouldn't be, I can't say that I would have accepted it any better, but maybe it would have been a little easier to digest. But to see my son on the path that he was on in life, a very flamboyant, a happy young man in life, a man who loved life, loved living life, who was so impactful to people's lives and so profound in the things that he did. A man, young man who was inspiring to be a model and modeling, being a school teacher, going to school to be a pathologist, who had just graduated and got his master's degree in forensic science, had gone off to Dillard University and achieved great things there as a historian in his major. I can't wrap my mind around that. It's been the hardest thing for my family and I to digest, to process, to even accept. I mean, my son's death shocked this whole community. It pierced the heart of so many people, and it has devastated our family. My wife's health has just plummeted from the loss of our child. She was a diabetic, and by her being a diabetic, being in such pain and such agony, and going through so much emotional stress, basically have caused her to go blind, sent her into kidney failure. My daughter, Banshika, mental stability is not the same. Although she's a graduate of Grambling in psychology, she herself needs to be counseled because she the one obtained the phone call. A phone call that came 5 minutes after my wife had just hung up, talking to my child, talking and laughing. And he was telling his mother, and she was showing him as she just was going through breast cancer, of losing her hair and shaving her head and telling her how beautiful she looked. 5 minutes later, a phone call comes and said, my son is dead. Man, that's a hard pill to swallow. My son, Demontre, and my son, Angelo, I mean, they walk around with broken hearts. We have to function because we have to keep living. But it's something to bear every day. It's a cross to bear every day. I'm thankful to God that He gives us the strength every day to go. He gives us new mercies every day to keep pushing. That's why I can't understand how these young men are out in these streets just taking lives, and these young women are out in the streets just allowing their lives to be taken because the pain is like no other. I've lost my mother. I've lost my father. I've lost a sister. I've lost nephews. I've lost brother-in-laws, sister-in-laws. I've lost grandparents. I've lost in-laws. I've lost friends. But man, nothing can compare to losing a child. You hear people talk about it, but you have no earthly idea until you walk a mile in them shoes. And I pray, God knows I pray earnestly, that nobody have to experience this pain that this family has incurred. And not only has it affected my family, but my siblings, my nieces, my nephews, my aunts, my uncles. Everybody has been affected by the death of my child, Gary, because to know him was just to love him. I mean, his personality was so big and so huge. You know, he never met a stranger. And I can recall my cousin out in California when he went to get his graduation for his master in forensic science. We was in Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. And my son just struck up conversation with strangers in California. She was just odd about that because she said, L.A., people just don't gravitate to people like that. And she said, this boy is magnetic. And she was just astounded by that. But my plea and my cry, not only myself, but my wife and my family, with this gun violence, with all of these things that are going on with how, as a culture of people, we're just missing the mark right now. When I talked about how all those people growing up shaped me and formed me, when I talked about the pride, this Bastrop being a city of pride, man, I want to be able to see, I want to be able to come home, I want to be able to come back and have that feeling of what it was like to grow up as a child when I was there. Forget about the baseball, forget about playing the sports. We're talking about where the rubber meets the road now. When you talk about where lives are being taken, where lives have been changed, where families are being destroyed from the hatred and the violence among ourselves, we're talking about how it's eliminating our race, it's eliminating the productivity, it's eliminating us from populating our race and continue to carry on the legacies of all these wonderful people that I spoke about on the call tonight. They're the rich heritage in Bastrop. They're the rich heritage in the African-American community. They're the rich heritage in who we are as people. But if we continue to push ourselves further and further away from the principles of God, if we continue to push ourselves further and further away from the things of who we're supposed to be, from the foundation, the structure of family, then this is what we're going to have continue to happen, where our young boys and our young girls are going to be taken way too soon.
Right.
We have it in us to do it because if our foreparents can come through 400 years of oppression and slavery, If we can make it through the civil rights movement with all the hatred that was poured out amongst our people, I know we can make it in today's time. I know we can make a difference in one another's lives. All we have to do is just be able to look back and understand the heritage, the legacy, the culture of who we really are, the strength that we have, the love that we really have for one another, and be able to embrace that through Christ Jesus. That's the foundation. That's the difference maker. That's the thing that is sustaining our family. And when my son died, the first thing I asked God, and it came to my mind, in my spirit, I said, Lord, please protect the sanctity of our mind. Because I knew at that moment that we would just go crazy knowing that our child was dead, no longer with us. A child who could have made a difference in this world, a child who could have changed so many people's lives, who young people was excited to be around, who class was just so eager to come to school and learn every day because this boy was a difference maker. And every time one of our children dies, we got to look at how many possibilities were taken off the earth. All we're doing is making the cemetery richer and richer by the dreams, by the visions, by the possibilities of what that young man or young woman could have been. We have to go back to nurturing. Instead of giving them so many things and giving them things that we thought we didn't have, we got to go back to giving them Christ Jesus. We got to go back to giving them love. We got to go back to giving them all the things that I received as a young boy. My wife and I gave that to our son. We gave that to our daughter. That's why they're thriving in life. That's why they're making something out of themselves. And I know every parent do their best because every child doesn't grow up to say, I'm going to be a crack addict. I'm going to grow up and be a murderer. I'm going to grow up and I want to go to prison. No, they grow up saying, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a professional athlete. But somewhere along the way in life, the train comes off the track and becomes derailed. And as a community, as a society, we got to find out where do we put this train back on the track so it can head to its purpose. It can head to its destination of life, of living, of changing, and making difference, empowering, and encouraging, overcoming. We got to be able to know that we know as a people, as a community, as a society, as a whole, within ourselves, we got to be able to pick each other up. We got to encourage one another. We got to be able to sustain each other in a difficult time. And especially our children now with all they have in the face because the enemy is like a roaring lion right now. He is devouring our children. He is giving us all as parents that jovial experience of having your children snatched at an early age. And I know the Bible said for us to train up our children in the way that to go, but he also says, parents, don't provoke your children into wrath. And that's what we have to be mindful of, that we don't scorn our children at such an young age of hollering at them and yelling and cursing them out and doing the thing that kill all their dreams before they even go to face this thing called life. Right. We have to make sure that as parents that we put all the possibilities in them. We got to be able to let them know who they are and what they could be. There's no blueprint to being a perfect parent because there's no perfect parent. We all make mistakes. We made mistakes, but lo and behold, we try to rectify those things. And as a society, when I fall short, you pick my child up. I should pick your child up. I should encourage them. We have to go back to the village raising the child. We have to go back to the time where it's okay to be able to correct your child and you correct my child. Because I knew as a young boy growing up in Bastrop, I was terrified to go somewhere to do anything wrong. Because I knew that, hey, Miss Sally down the street, or Mr. Smith over across the street, or Miss Day down the street, or Mr. Floyd, hallelujah, or Miss Davis down, all those people, or even the people that I grew up and taught me in Sunday school, they had a right, they had a rite of passage to bust your behind, to shock your behind, to stimulate your mind, to make sure that you got on the right track.
Right.
But society says you can't do that now. And that's the problem.
Right.
Society is dictating to us instead of letting the word of God dictate to us, letting the principles of God dictate to us. We have to be able to pray earnestly and allow our children to be able to know who they really are. Those streets out there, they done took many lives, many men, many women. I'm oftentimes reminded of the passage in the Bible when it talks about the rich man and Lazarus. And what's astonishing me about that passage of scripture in the Bible is when the rich man looks up to Abraham. And he goes to talking to Abraham about Lazarus dipping his finger in the water. And Abraham tells him, remember? Now he's calling, he's telling this man, he said, you fare sumptuously here on earth. But then the man goes on and said, well, let me go back and tell my brothers, let me warn my brothers not to come where I am. And he's talking from hell into Abraham in heaven. And Abraham tells him if he won't listen to Moses and all the other prophets, they're not going to listen to you. And I'm wondering how many times that one of our young children's lives have been taken when they don't know Christ. That they saying too, can they go back and warn my friends? Can I go back and warn my brothers and my sisters? Can I go back and warn my community? Right. Don't come here. Don't come here. It's just so much to deal with. It's just so much, but it has given me a new birth and a newfound ministry to be able to counsel and be able to deal with the people. But I'm just trying to keep my family together. I'm trying to keep them from falling apart. I'm trying to keep my sanity. But there's many days my wife is crying. I'm crying. My sons are crying. My daughter is crying. Because we miss them so much. The pain is real. The agony of losing a child is real. It's like no other. And I don't know when my morning gonna come. Because the word of God said, weeping endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. My morning haven't come yet because I'm still weeping. This past July has been 2 years and I'm still weeping. I'm still mourning. Not that I don't have hope. I have hope. I believe in God. I'm sold out to Christ. Jesus. I'm sold out to his principles and his purpose, but the pain. And I understand that when people go through life, and you go through so much pain, you go through so much despair, you go through so much disappointment, you go through so much heartache, it strips away the fabric of who you really are as a person. And that's why in this day and time, Brother Odom, we're seeing so much mental illness. We're seeing so many people just checking out because the pain of life, the downtrodden, the despair is just so much to overcome. Some people just can't. And that's why we got to reach the way down and pick our brothers up, pick our sisters up with the help of God. We gotta give them something to believe in. And that's why I'm so grateful that my brother, the Apostle Paul, said that I have to become all things to all men, that I may win some all the more. And that's what I'm trying to do, even in my pain, even in my despair. I remember when my son hadn't even been buried. 2 people called me and asked me, could I pray for their loved one because they just lost their child. I hadn't even buried my son. I'm like, Lord, my child ain't even buried yet. I'm grieving myself and they calling me for prayer. I need somebody to pray for me. But God quickened my spirit and reminded me about putting my hand to the plow and not looking back. So I reached out to those people. I called them. And I was able to weep with them. And I was able to halfway understand what it was that they was going through because of my circumstance. And if you out there today and you listening to me and you lost a child, a son or a daughter, prematurely in life, whether it be from gun violence or you just lost a child, period. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, my heart goes out to you. My prayers are with you. My love is for you. And all I can tell you is to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him. God bless you and keep you. That's my prayer. I'm so thankful for this call today. I'm so thankful for the opportunity, Brother Odom, that you have given me to reflect and think about so many people that hadn't even crossed my mind in a very long time. I'm grateful that you gave me the opportunity, man, to go in the archives of my mind and to pull back on the resources that have made me who I am today. I thank so many people, from my wife and my children, to my parents, to my siblings, to all the wonderful people in this community of Bastrop, Louisiana, who have shaped me and formed me, to my classmates of the class of 81. It's just been a blessing to have lived the life that I have lived, for God to have given me so much at such a young age, and to me being able to be called into the ministry and called into the things that He has purposed me to do. And I pray to God that I continue to do it, because I know that there's no greater gift than this, than to be able to preach the gospel and to reach out to people. And I thank God for my son, Carrion. I thank God for the gift that he left behind in his daughter, Mina. So every time I look at her, I can still see my son's eyes. I can still see the warmth in her from my son. I can still see the love in her from my son. So I have a lot to be thankful about, in spite of all that we've gone through, in spite of all the heartache and the pain and despair. And I thank God for just blessing me with other grandchildren. I have 6 grandchildren. They're all a blessing. They're all a blessing. And I just pray for them earnestly, as I will pray for you, Brother Odom, your podcast, the people of Bastrop continuously, and all the bereaved hearts that are out there. And I pray for Bastrop High School and the athletes that are there, that they go on to do great things. They go on to allow God to open up their mind to learning, that they go on to be able to rise from the ashes of what that town is in this position right now. Because there's more to Bastrop, brothers and sisters, than meets the eye. We were more than just a paper mill town. We were more than just a pulp mill town. We were more than just a farm town. We're a city of pride. We're a city of wonderful and great people. We're a city of wonderful doctors and lawyers and teachers, educators. We're sports figures, humanitarians, ministers and preachers and teachers of the gospel. That's who we are. We're a community. And I say we because I still am a Bastronian, and I always will be, because everything that I am and everything I'll continue to be, by the grace of God, is still riding on the foundation I got from growing up at 1601 King Street in Bastrop, Louisiana.
Right. Mr.Eave, our heart goes out to you. We're proud of you here at eMERS 360. It was a great honor having our second Hall of Famer on the show. You've been an inspiration to a lot of us coming up playing baseball, and we want to tell you thank you, and that's why we want to give you your flowers now. A lot of times we wait till people go on before we give them their flowers, and you gave a lot of men today listening to this show their flowers, and we appreciate you, we love you, and we wish you the best on your endeavors.
Yes, sir, brother, and I'm so grateful. And in my naming of names, I never want to be able to omit one of our greatest families, the Nat families there in Bastrop, for their contributions to basketball, their contributions to the camps that they give. For our brother Calvin Nat, we know that he went on to do great things in the NBA, but his father being a minister of the gospel, and this Nat and that family growing up in the community there, they just have done great and wonderful things. So I want to just thank them. Again, I want to thank all of my family there. Thank my family here that with me, my wife Kathy, my son Demontre and Angelo, my daughter Bonchika, for their support and who I am. And thank you, brother, for once again for allowing me to be able to come on the call. Thank my in-laws for the support they give me. I'm just a blessed man.
All right.
I'm just a blessed man, favored by God, called by God, chosen by God in the ministry to be so much more than just a baseball player. and I'm grateful for that.
Yes, sir. And we hope that we can get you back real soon. I'm your host, Maserati. This has been brought to you by 720 Gamers Group and Involved Social and Civic Club, where we understand the social and civic needs of love, learn, live, and laugh. Until next time, y'all stay encouraged, get involved, and most of all, y'all stay encouraged and stay immersed. We out of this thing.
I was raised in the ghetto. I've been to the bottom. Ain't nothing at the bottom for me. Only tell all my problems. Seems he can only solve it for me. I was raised in the ghetto. See, struggle ain't no stranger to me. I grind hard.